Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a genuinely crucial survival skill for navigating our crazy, information-overloaded world, the discernment of truth. We're going way beyond the basic definitions of facts and opinions, and really looking at how separating the two is an absolute game-changer for critical thinking and making solid, everyday decisions. Now, we're anchoring today's analysis with some ancient wisdom. Proverbs 18:13 says, "To answer before listening, that is folly and shame." It's a great reminder, right? We have to actually listen, evaluate, and hunt for the truth before we just jump to conclusions. In a world where everyone wants to be the absolute first to react, taking a beat to just listen and discern is literally more important than ever. So, here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the quest for truth. Decode the facts, spot the opinions, untangle mixed statements, put those skills into action, and finally, look at education, morality, and peace. Let's get right into it. Part 1. The quest for truth, navigating the information overload. Think about your everyday life for a second. You know the drill. You're constantly bombarded by information online. You're scrolling through social media feeds, watching news reports, skipping past endless ads. But here's the real catch. Not all of this info is reliable. And if you can't tell the difference between solid evidence and just someone's feelings, you're incredibly vulnerable. You could easily end up believing completely false information or getting swept away by emotion rather than reality. But when you know how to spot the facts, you build a foundation of real truth. And when you recognize opinions, you put up a massive shield against emotional manipulation. Moving on to part 2, decoding the facts, anchoring in objective reality. So, what exactly are we dealing with here? Let's define it. A fact is a statement that can be definitively proven true or false using evidence, completely free from personal beliefs or feelings. It is an objective, universal reality. Here's a classic example to put it into perspective. Water freezes at 32 degrees Fahrenheit or 0 degrees Celsius. Why is this a fact? Well, because it's completely verifiable. We can take actual scientific equipment like a thermometer and test it ourselves. It isn't influenced by how much you might hate the cold, and most importantly, it's universally true. No matter where you live on the planet or what you happen to believe, scientists can repeatedly measure this temperature and get the exact same result every single time. Even if someone says, well, I just don't believe water freezes there, the truth doesn't care. The truth doesn't change. Being able to identify these solid, measurable facts helps you build a really reliable base of knowledge. All right, part 3, spotting the opinions, recognizing personal perspectives. If a fact is objective reality, an opinion is the exact opposite. It's totally subjective. An opinion is an expression of personal beliefs, judgments, or feelings that simply cannot be scientifically proven. Let's look at a highly subjective and, honestly, delicious example. Vanilla ice cream is the best flavor. This sits firmly in the opinion category because that word best depends entirely on individual taste. Even if you did a massive survey and found that 90% of people absolutely love vanilla, it's still just a very popular opinion, not a fact. You literally cannot scientifically prove taste. Someone else could easily say chocolate is the best, and hey, their statement is just as valid. Recognizing this distinction is absolutely crucial, especially when you're analyzing persuasive writing, ads, or political speeches, where these subjective opinions are constantly dressed up to sound like undeniable facts. Which brings us to part 4, untangling mixed statements, the real-world challenge. Out in the real world, marketers and speakers love to get a little crafty. They'll mix facts and opinions together into a single sentence. Take a look at this claim. Our town's new park is the most beautiful in the state because of its large rose garden. Do you see what they did there? The phrase most beautiful is pure opinion. You can't put beauty on a scale and measure it. But a large rose garden? That's a fact. You can actually walk right into that park, grab a tape measure, and verify it. To accurately judge a statement's truthfulness, you have to mentally pull these things apart. When you're reading an article or listening to a sales pitch, you need to actively separate what can be physically measured from what is merely someone's personal belief. Untangling these mixed statements is honestly your absolute best defense against being misled. Now for part 5. Putting skills into action, your turn to practice. The source material actually lays out a great framework for practicing these skills in real time. It involves doing things like writing out a fact in an opinion about your own school, or grabbing a news headline and labeling it as a fact, an opinion, or a mix of both. But the real goal of this practice is twofold. First, recognizing that identifying facts gives you the bedrock for making solid life decisions. And second, realizing that when you recognize opinions for what they are, you actually foster much more respectful, de-escalated discussions with people you disagree with. Finally, Part 6, Education, Morality, and Peace, the ultimate goal. The Smart Academy curriculum pairs these academic skills with a specific biblical framework. Drawing from Romans chapter 8, the source material notes that keeping your mind spiritual promises peace of mind. It argues that intellectual knowledge really achieves its highest purpose when it's guided by this kind of spiritual and moral foundation. Within this specific framework, distinguishing a fact from an opinion isn't just some boring academic exercise. It's a critical protective measure. The core philosophy of the source text asserts that education without morality will ultimately hurt. From their perspective, having raw data and amazing analytical skills is great, but you really need a strong moral compass to prevent making destructive life choices. And the curriculum leaves us with this really compelling question to ponder. What is the point of being smart and supposedly educated if you continue to make bad choices that hurt yourself and others? Whether you look at this through a moral lens or a purely analytical one, true discernment is really about using the truth to navigate the world wisely. Think deeply on that as you evaluate all the information you consume today. Thanks for joining me, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.